Senior Report thanks Edmund Besch of Bristol Burgess Insurance Agency, 65 East Main Street, Westfield, for his generous grant to provide news to seniors. Funding is provided by a grant from New York State Senator Catherine M. Young, representing Western New York's 57th District with a local office in Olean. Funding is provided by a grant from Absolute Care of Westfield, committed to returning the favor to those who spent a lifetime caring for others. Absolute Care is located at 26 Cass Street in Westfield. Dave Cass and Rick Newell provide funding on behalf of the Lakeview Hotel and Restaurant at the docks, located on Water Street near the lake in Mayville. Senior Report with Reed Powers thanks Westfield's Schultz Chevy for a generous grant to inform seniors of important news. Over 50 years of service to Westfield by Chevrolet, Schultz Chevy across from the school. The physicians of Jamestown Primary Care are happy to sponsor the Senior Report. From the Access Channel 5 television studio in Mayville, it's Senior Report with Reed Powers. Senior Report is broadcast live throughout northern Chautauqua County on Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. each week. Call in and share a thought, make a comment, ask a question, or simply wish someone a happy birthday on Chautauqua County's only live call-in senior program. Since 1995, Reed has been bringing viewers hundreds of interesting guests, informing the community on a variety of subjects. Here's the host of the show, Reed Powers.
Okay, good morning. What a beautiful day in Chautauqua County. Halloween's coming up. Ooh, we have, there they are. It's all over the place. We have a lot of things going on. We've got with us our New York State Assemblyman, Andy Goodell, who's going to give us a little report on what's coming on. There's some important things we should know, especially about the budget and your EPIC and a few other things that have happened. We will be discussing energy, which is a big issue, and it looks like we might be in hot water on that one. We'll ask Andy. He has the inside dope. We also have many other interesting items coming on. We've got John Hamels, who's Doc, and we have a wonderful PSA. So here you go, guys. Halloween program coming on. Just about anyway. Okay. What have we got happening around on TV? You know, the TV doesn't really tell you much about what's going on in this world anymore, but mainly because it's owned by the corporations, and they tell you what they want you to hear and the way you want it to hear, and they tell you what to think now. One place where you can get a refreshing outside view without any nonsense and no censorship whatsoever is on your Access channel. So watch your Access TV. Unfortunately, I believe we're the only live program that's operating right now in Chautauqua County on Access, but we are live on every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 o'clock. You can call in, put your message on the magic carpet to space and the universe, and you can also have a comment. You can give somebody a clap on the back or a boot in the rear, whatever you wish. This is your program, so remember that, and I'll give you the numbers right on your TV set there. Look on your screen. 753-5225 or 753-JACK if you can't remember all those numbers. Okay. Anybody who calls in today, $5 off at that beautiful restaurant at the foot of the hill here in Mayville, New York, the Lakeview, and also Valentino's. They have two restaurants side by side. One of them serves a lot of fish, wonderful fish. All the crabs you can eat for peanuts. I can't. And it used to be there was only 2 extra servings. Now they say all you can eat. Because I used to say that, I guess. But it's a fun place to go. Good steaks too, and fish. Oh, the fish. If you get a fried fish, it flops over both sides of your plate. My wife and I have to cut it in half. I get half, she gets half. I take a salad, she gets a salad with it, and we're all set. Nothing else. Okay, at any rate, enough said. TV doesn't have much. We've got, of course, Obama, the nonsense going on between Obama and Romney. And the Romney crowd seems to have their foot in their mouth half the time. I mean, they've got this comments such as, rape is God's will. If you get raped, you should have the baby. No abortion allowed by some moron out there. And I won't use the term retard, because if you say retard, they got Ann Caldwell, Carter on that one. That's a medical term now. You could say a dummy. She called the president a retard, which was kind of strange. I'm sure you saw that somewhere on the air. If not, you will. A lot of other things going on. Locally, we have the hunting season open up, and the turkeys are out there chasing the turkeys, and they have a new gimmick now. You can use a bow gun in most of Chautauqua County. Now, the bow gun is a pretty potent little weapon, and it's already preloaded and preset. You just pull the trigger. It's like using a gun. And I understand, though, there's a strange thing going. You can't use the bow gun during the bow season, only during the rifle season, which is kind of funny. It may not be true, but that's what I'm being told. And I have a lot of friends who are hunters, and they all get their deer. We have a super hunter right here in the studio as I speak. Jeff Zook, he always gets his deer. He's a bow hunter. And how can you turn down 50 pounds of good venison? That's about what you get out of a deer, the average deer. And who can go wrong? There's so many deer around. The insurance companies control the deer season. Car insurance, because the more deer around, more car accidents they have to repair. It costs them a bundle of money. So what they do is they try to extend the doe season as much as they can. So you're allowed to take 2 doe. Most people now, it used to be a lottery. Now they just give you the doe permits. They kill a doe, for God's sake, save a car. Which isn't so funny to people who live up here in Chautauqua County, because I challenge you to find anybody who's driven for any reasonable period of time and hasn't hit a deer up here. I know people who hit 2 or 3 deer. It's like lightning striking over and over. But so many deer on the road. And my advice is when you see a deer crossing sign, ignore it, like everybody else does, because deer don't pay any attention to that. They cross wherever they want to, you know. I asked our state senator about that. And I said, you know how much money they spend on deer crossing signs? The deer ignore them, you realize. And because of that, most people ignore them. They don't slow down at all. Millions of dollars for deer crossing signs all over the place up here, all over the state. I bet they have them down probably on Fifth Avenue in New York. There's a big deer crossing sign lobby. We'll ask Andy about that. His opponent has pointed out that there's extensive corruption in Albany, in the halls of Albany, lobbying particularly, and money flowing around. And we'll have to ask about the deer hunting lobby, the deer sign lobby. They probably have a couple of lobbyists up there full time. You're gonna have turkey run signs before you know it, because they'll run out of deer signs. Okay, a lot of stupid things and fun things going on around here in Chautauqua County. I've got a public service announcement for you, and then we'll bring on a super guy who's going to talk after I've given you the senior news. Incidentally, I'll give you the senior news now. I only have one big item, and that's the Mayville crowd. Now, the Mayville Senior Club has seniors from all over the county. You don't have to, in most cases, belong to your particular town or village or church or whatever it is that has a senior club. They welcome any senior in. And Mayville has a big number of seniors there, and they have huge turnouts. They have a lunch regularly every 2 weeks over at the Mayville VFW. Beautiful facility. And the tables are usually set by sweet people such as Mary Carlson, Bonnie Johnson, and Dolly Gilbert. And everybody else is out there working away. They have everybody brings a dish to pass, casseroles, whatever. Usually the main dish is provided by the club, and it's very peanuts to belong to the club. Usually it's $3 to $5. And dues are due in most of your clubs, so get your dough in, huh, guys? Don't make them chase you around. They're having a harvest dinner over there, full turkey dinner, at noon at the VFW. It'll be November 3rd. Remember that, November the 3rd. Why do we all remember November the 3rd? Must be a reason for that. Okay. We all remember November the 6th, I hope. That's when you got to go down and vote. Don't forget to vote. You can complain and moan about the political climate, but if you don't vote, shut up and sit down. You don't have any say at all, because you could go down and vote anyway for the two people who are Tweedledee and Tweedledum in most cases, but you have to vote on one of them. And I don't know. I'll ask Andy if any politician is afraid of elections. You know, if you're an incumbent, you have big advantages. We'll talk about that too. A lot of things to talk about, Andy. It's coming up here. The incumbency. Hey, you're destroying these. These are $5 bills, you know.
They're going to honor them, even though I made some senior notes for you.
Okay. Yeah, just sign them. Yeah. You know, sign them at the bottom. Okay, good enough. Now, this incident is turkey dinner over at the Mayville Club. I should give them a tip of the hat. The Alliance Church, Christian Missionary Alliance Church of DeWittville is doing this. And hey, thanks a lot, guys. You have chefs coming over. They bring turkey and everything. It's going to be fantastic. I wanted to mention that Judge John Ward, who's running this year, this election, started his career as assistant DA here right in the county, and he's got a big thing. Coughlin's running against him. Coughlin's a very well-known bartender. All the Irish are bartenders, aren't they? They all run and they all elected, whatever. But that might not be true. There is a Coughlin's over right in Main Street in Fredonia. Seniors, I want you to know that the confusing court system, which each court used to be 100 cases a year, 500 a year now, and moving up. And they keep cutting the budget of the DA and the courts, and it's just getting to be tough around here. Ask John. Okay, if you want a dinner reservation for that harvest dinner, call Joyce, 761-6004. Great travel trips. Gene Kelsey reports that there are seats available for the Riverside Theater on November 27th. That'll include a bus ride, a meal, an all-new Christmas show in the old Cambridge Springs Inn. Hey, if you're interested in that, get in touch with them. Call 753-7814. You know, most of the bus trips will take anybody, even kids. Believe it or not, a lot of the senior buses, they'll take a kid who wants to go somewhere. And the price is always right, the company's excellent, and the food is good. Entertainment, outstanding. All right, enough said. They're telling me my time is up for this nonsense. Stop the news. We don't want to hear any more news. All right, no more news. But we do have a guy who shoots from the hip after my public service announcement, John Doc Hamels. Here you go. Public service announcement just for you.
They hold so much potential, and we'd give anything to make sure they're taken care of. They're the reason we go to work, the reason we stay home, the reason we worry, laugh, cry, and love. Our children and seniors represent the dreams and hopes of all of us. At the United Way of Southern Chautauqua County, we're working to build a better dream and create a greater hope. When you give to the United Way campaign, you're creating those dreams and hopes too. Let's build a better tomorrow. Invest in today.
Friends, here he is, John Hamels. Doc, you're on.
Good morning, Reed. Good morning, Andy.
Good morning,
Folks,
Doc.
you don't know, but Andy is one of my fans. He follows me everywhere around the county, I think.
I do.
It's amazing. I'll look up, there's Andy and his wife. There's look over here, there's Andy and his wife. Anyways, good morning, everyone.
And also Mueller, of course.
He is. I don't recall him being in the audience, but who knows?
He's probably hiding there somewhere.
Well, anyways, good morning. And just to by way of announcement is, I don't know if you can catch this poster here, Don, but tonight's the last night of the Town of Terror at the Safety Village over at Asheville. Thank you, Reed. I was there last night, and we were scaring up a bunch of people. They've had like about 300, 400 people each weekend for the last 2 weekends, and this will be the last night tonight. You might say, oh, my God, it's raining out there. Grab an umbrella. I think they're having a special rate for the rain. But the village is just totally chaos. There's zombies walking all over the place. It's a scary good time, but you should be about 10 years on up because it is a little bit of startled for you. But we had a good time. All right. Reed, well, you know, you were talking about politics. I know Andy's a politician. Sorry. Anyways, I tried once, but didn't work out so well. But
You're down.
they elected me down. I couldn't be. Well, I won't go into that because he's not running. Anyways, like everybody else, I think this is the year of all years since I've been around anyways, that one vote really can make a difference, whether it's here in New York, or voting on New York state elections or the national election. But with the race being this tight, folks, your vote makes a huge difference. And because, we're electing the electoral votes for the presidency. In this particular case, we're voting for various folks, politicians across the state, local, and so forth. But the vote is important. Now, I want to use my little chart here that I used back in July, I noticed. There's 435 congressmen. How many should we replace, Reed?
Congressman, we will replace every single last one of them.
All right. As you know, that's been Reed's mantra, and quite a few folks, is that Congress seems to be the ones that just aren't getting the job done out there. Senators, they drew a bye this year, so they're safe. And then, of course, we have one president. So we're going to be electing 436 people. And there's well over, let me get my sign here, over 300 million of us. So, I don't know, 80% of us can vote. Let's get out there and vote, folks. Now, as far as the actual election itself, many of you, probably like myself, been watching the debates. We've been reading the propaganda, listening to the ads to ad nauseum, as we say. So I decided, all right, this is sort of like buying a car, all right? What kind of car do I want? Do I want a fast car, slow car, standard car, automatic? Do I want something that gets good mileage, something that keeps its value when I go to trade in and so forth? So I do research. So what I've decided to do, rather than think about who I'm going to vote for president, it's a little different. I've decided to look at who's behind the president candidate. What are they standing for? Because the president doesn't get elected by him or herself. They bring in their whole posse with them. So I decided to go online, and you could do the same thing. You can Google this. Google the National Republican Party platform, and you can read. And if anything resonates with you, then you might say, okay, I go along with that group of thinking. If that doesn't fit very well for you, go to the National Democratic Party platform and read about what they have to say. And they talk about, in both parties now, that's just one, but about education, health reform, job creation, and so forth. So that's my recommendation at this point in time. You still got time. We got, a whole other week and a bit yet. And so do your homework, do your research, forget about the commercials, forget about the talking heads on TV, get on the internet and read about the parties, and maybe that'll help you. Back to you, Reed.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to try this out, see how it works. And then finally, got Andy with us here while we're playing with our little toy. I got a call that says, come join us. The Deutschmeisters, there's going to be a review of the Deutschmeisters, a formal goodbye after half a century of music and entertainment. And they come out of Westfield, but they're all over the county. Everybody knows the Deutschmeisters and their oompa music and everything. It's terrific. And they're going to have a big party and everything, and festivities Saturday, that's today, October 27th. Eason Hall at 2 p.m., Westfield, New York. Go to Eason Hall, that's right next to the diner, and you'll on Elm Street, and you'll have a wonderful time at 2 o'clock for the Deutschmeisters, and everybody will be there, and everybody knows the Deutschmeister. Okay, enough said. We got Andy Goodell with us. Andy is our assemblyman. He's running this year against in the accompaniment of Rudy Mueller, and Rudy is a past legislator. You're a past legislator here in Chautauqua County, so we're going to have well-represented people we're going to be well-represented in the assembly, one way or another. And Andy is not here to campaign or anything. He's going to just talk about the issues. We have a lot of very interesting issues in this area we've got to address immediately, and how you vote may have something to do with these issues. So here we go, Andy. First of all, good morning.
Good morning, Reed.
And thank you for joining us.
In fact, I think one of my very first appearances was with you when I was county executive 20 years ago.
I remember, I think you were in my first program over in Dunkirk, New York, when I came out of retirement.
Yeah.
After having worked umpteen years down in New York.
And started a new career.
Which has gone nowhere. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't denigrate our Channel 5. We are the only access television station in the whole county, and a bunch of us, who have a live program on. This is live.
And it's great. I mean, people can call in with their questions.
Right. And they have a lot of questions sometimes. Boy, did they have a lot for Nate Shinagawa, I might add.
Oh.
They had a lot for you about 2 times ago, I remember.
That's right.
That's right. Teachers, particularly. That was a good show. So anyway, tell us a little about yourself. We've done this before, and most people know, but we got new listeners or viewers that come on, and they like to know, where were you born and raised?
Well, actually, I grew up here in Chautauqua County. I was born in Jamestown at WCA.
Okay.
And
that's very close, and it's still going. There's still something left in Jamestown, as I recall.
Yeah,
they're doing some work over there.
And WCA is doing great. They just added a new emergency room, and it's state of the art. It's a beautiful, beautiful facility. Of course, I hope no one needs to go there. But if you do need health care, it's great to know that we have one of the best, most modern emergency rooms in WCA. And of course, we've got great healthcare facilities up in Westville, and they're both tied in with Erie hospitals.
And they're both about 15 minutes away, each one from wherever they are.
Yeah.
So you can get immediate health care if you need it, if you're in an emergency situation. Although in Westfield, the average time is about 3 minutes from the emergency room.
Yeah.
And it's tied up with the big hospital in Erie, with St. Vincent's, Westfield, and I think they're tied in with Hammond, aren't they?
That's right. WCA is tied in.
Yeah.
So it's a great situation here in Chautauqua County because you have the best of both worlds. You have a local hospital with great people who give you immediate service, and then they're tied in with one of the top regional hospitals out of Erie.
Right.
So you get the best of both worlds. But anyway, to answer your question, I was born here in Chautauqua County, went to Maple Grove High School, graduated from there. Then I went to a small college called Williams College, where I received a couple of degrees, one in political economics, which is economics and political science, and the second one was mathematics. From there I went to Cornell Law School. And
Cornell's a good school.
Yeah, it's a top school, and it was a great school for me. I really enjoyed it. It's a New York school, of course.
Right near Trumansburg.
Yeah, Trumansburg's not far from there.
Right.
And then from there, I went to Washington, D.C., worked for a private law firm for just a couple of years, and then came back up here, started in the county law department, eventually became county attorney. And I'd like to say after 8 years, voters expressed their confidence in my ability to practice in the private sector.
The same with Rudy Miller, I might add.
So then I practiced business and corporate law for about 15 years before being elected to the Assembly 2 years ago.
Yeah, and how do you like the Assembly? It's kind of a grind, isn't it?
It's
especially when you're actually not in the majority party. You're in the minority party, which means that you get the bad end of the stick, if you know what I mean.
Well, actually, being in the minority gives you some special advantages because
they don't see you.
Well, no. You see, what happens is the majority is controlled by Shelley Silver.
Right.
This is when you hit the screen button.
Oh yeah. So this is the guy. This is the guy who's been on TV. They've been constantly running the fact that he wants to give undocumented aliens, wetbacks as we used to call them up here in Chautauqua County, free college.
I know. At your expense.
At my expense, yeah, I pay for it.
Oh yeah, it's not free for the taxpayers.
Right. Free college for the wetback, but I pay for it, of course, and so do you, everybody else up here. What's the matter with that man?
Well, he's using your tax dollars to buy votes.
Apparently.
Because obviously he wants to use your tax dollars to buy the votes and the supports of the Hispanic community and some of the other community, the illegal immigrant community.
That's what we're talking about, the illegals. No, a legal immigrant Chinese, Englishman, Hispanic, I could care less. They're legal.
Yeah.
They're not criminals. Now, you are a criminal if you sneak into the United States without papers.
Yep.
And he wants to give the criminals free college. Why not? Well, there's a lot of them live in New York, right? That's where his base is.
Well, I think we should focus more on our financial aid on those who are here legally, like our own sons and daughters and grandchildren. And that's where our first priority should be. But anyway, to answer your question, the agenda in the Assembly is controlled by Silver.
Mm-hmm. And they dictated it, they tell me.
Oh, absolutely.
You do what he says or else you're out. You're never seen again.
He's got a tight fist.
And it's iron.
And it's iron. And we had a situation where, I'll give you just a simple example. Sam Roberts, who is a nice guy. He's a nice guy from Syracuse, a freshman Democrat. One day he voted against Silver's wishes on 3 different bills. Mm-hmm. That was on a Wednesday. By Monday, he had a new office. On the 5th floor of the Capitol building, tucked into a corner, you need a GPS to find his office. But you see,
and a shoehorn to get in, I'm sure.
That's for sure. But you see, Shelley Silver doesn't expect the minority to follow his wishes, and as a result, that gives me the freedom to be able to speak on the floor of the Assembly against bills that would hurt our economy or hurt Chautauqua County. And Shelley Silver doesn't control my office space.
Your office stays where it is.
Exactly.
And your parking lot is still fairly close.
Fairly close, that's right. It's within walking distance. So, so actually, as a freshman, if you look at the history of the Assembly, you'll see the only amendments that are ever offered on the floor come from the minority. Because if you did it as a majority member, you'd find you'd have a new office.
You lose certain perks, I might add. There are some perks that go with this stuff. Once you become a chairperson, right?
Yes.
You get some bucks out of it.
Yep, and so Shelley maintains control of the Assembly by controlling those perks. And office space. I mean, if you're one of his favorites, you get a big office. If you're not, you might even be in a different office building.
Yeah, but he must have liked Bill Parman very much. Bill Parman had a whole suite.
Bill Parman, he did. He had a 4-room suite. Yeah, and Bill was one of his top lieutenants, you know?
Yeah, well, Bill did the job. He's an old farm boy. He played the harmonica, you know.
Yeah.
He actually did harmonica concerts at one point. You ought to hear him sometime.
Well, you know, you have that 5 or 6 hour drive to Albany every week, so it gives you a chance to practice the harmonica.
With one of those little head things that holds it in front of you?
Presumably.
Well, I'll tell you, we do miss Bill Parman, too. He was terrific, but you're doing the job up there. Tell me, when you go to the Assembly, what time do you have to get there? I always wondered, you know, they say part-time legislator, part-time. How much time do you put in there, regularly speaking?
Oh, yeah. When I first ran, they told me it was a part-time job.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they lied.
They lied. It was an overtime job.
It is an overtime job. And if you're really serious about representing Chautauqua County, and I am, then you need to be out there meeting with people. And last week, for example, I had the pleasure of being with the adult daycare program up in Dunkirk. They had a great party up there.
Yeah, they have one in Westfield, I might add, too.
Yeah,
why?
Yeah. And
what do they do at the adult daycare? What do they do for fun?
Well, they've had a couple things. Earlier this year, they had like a prom, and all the senior citizens got dressed up, and they had music. Actually, I could dance to that music, and we had a lot of fun. And this Wednesday, we have RSVP is having their awards dinner up in Dunkirk.
RSVP, what's that?
Retired Senior Volunteer Program.
Okay, yeah, I should know because I worked for a long time.
Yeah, it's a great program.
Well, we had a community kitchen in Westfield. We still have. It's a great community kitchen. And I was their chef for years and years and years.
Well, you've never invited me over for dinner yet.
Well, that's because the idea of having me as a chef was to cut down on the action. There was too many people coming there.
Oh, I see.
By the time I left, we only got 2 or 3 people straying in.
And they ate before they arrived?
Well, one of them would say, who's the chef today? And if they said Powers, he'd say, well, I got to go. And they'd go across the diner and have dinner.
I don't really believe you on that one. But so it is full time. And when we're in session, we typically, they schedule the sessions to start typically noon, maybe 1 o'clock on a Monday. I actually leave on Sunday night because it's a 5.5, 6 hour drive.
Yeah, it's a long drive.
So I drive up, and my practice is to be in the office in Albany when we're in session at 9 in the morning. And my staff know I expect them to be there. My staff are very busy because I do a lot of research
Now
on
you
the
say
bills.
my staff, how many people do you have on your staff?
I have a part.
Somebody asked Kathy Young that, and she couldn't answer. And the guy really got abusive about it.
Well, I don't have any problem answering because I have so few. I have a full-time chief of staff in Jamestown, Elizabeth Rankin, and she's got an MBA, very capable woman.
Oh, I've spoken with her.
Yeah, and Elizabeth really focuses on helping local companies and businesses. If you have an issue with a license or a regulatory issue with her MBA, she's great. I have a part-time person that works 3 days a week in Jamestown. I have a part-time person in Albany that's there only when I'm there, and then she's on call. And then each year I've been assigned an intern. That's a local college student. And I have to tell you, the last 2 years I've had really great interns, very, very sharp people. And I keep them busy.
Yeah?
I keep them busy because what I do in Albany, when I get the legislative bills, first I read them. That's a novel concept.
That's novel. The whole thing?
Yeah. Except for the budget, which is this big, and then I just read a summary.
Sometimes they come in pretty big, yeah. They make sure you don't read them.
And then we do a lot of background research on them. I have an economics background, as I mentioned, but my intern is working full-time. And so for me, it's just fascinating to be able to look at all the different issues, analyze them from an economics perspective, and from a legal perspective, of course, and then debate them on the floor of the House. So for me, it's exciting, but when I'm in Albany, I'm basically in the office. Well, I start around 9, and typically I work till 9 or 10 o'clock at night.
How many sessions, what is the session period?
The normal session starts in January and runs through the end of June.
So that's why I guess they call it part-time, because half the year nothing's going on, right?
Yeah, but the other half of the time, I'm working, for example, to help NRG. You know, and that takes a lot of time and effort, and other local employers. And I spend a lot of time meeting with senior citizen groups and civic groups and other groups.
Who runs your law office? You do have a practice, too, on the side.
I used to have. I have a position, it's called, they call it counsel of counsel. And so I hired another attorney, and I'm at my private office often because the legal resources in my private office are much better than my public office.
Better library, huh?
Oh, much better. Much better computer system. And so when you're working on developing laws to help Chautauqua County, it's great to have my private law office, all those legal resources there, and I use them.
Yeah, well,
I should charge the state, but I don't.
yeah, we got a phone call. You want to take one?
Sure.
Okay, well,
sure.
then I have a question for you. Caller, good morning. Thank you for waiting.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a question for you guys.
Sure.
You go down the road just a little ways into Pennsylvania, and gasoline is 25, 30, 35 cents cheaper. Can you please explain to us why that is?
Absolutely. I'd be glad to give you
Thank you.
some ideas on that. There's a couple things that are going on. Part of it is market forces, and part of it is government itself. On the market forces, the cost of the gas is based on competition. And so if you go up toward Buffalo or toward Erie, Pennsylvania, you'll see the cost is a little bit lower than Chautauqua County because there's more sources of gas and the competition is a little bit better, and that helps keep the cost down. In New York State, what's amazing is the amount of state and federal taxes, especially state taxes, which differ from state to state.
I hear it's almost 50 cents on a gallon, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a huge
It's
state
enough
tax.
to burn you up.
Yeah, and so this year, I will tell you that we introduced a budget amendment to reduce the state taxes both for individuals, so the price you'd see at the pump, as well as the tax that applies on commercial fuel for trucking companies and things like that. It's a major source of revenue for the state. We thought it would make financial sense to cut those tax. Unfortunately, we only got about 50 votes, and you need 76.
Okay. Well, how many people are in the minority versus the majority in the assembly?
About 50.
50. So it was down the party line, right?
Well, that particular one was. But a lot of the work that we do is bipartisan. In fact, Reed, as I told you, I read the bills, and when I see a bill that makes sense for Chautauqua County, it doesn't matter to me whether it's a Republican or a Democrat that introduced it. And so I've co-sponsored a number of Democrat bills that would help us here. And my Democrat colleagues return the favor. When I come up with a bill that they think makes sense, they've co-sponsored it. So you hear a lot of this partisan bickering, particularly on the presidential race.
Right.
And you think nobody talks to each other. In reality, when I go to Albany, I work hard to reach across the aisle.
So would Rudy
likewise.
Mueller, I might add.
Well, I'm sure.
They say, what do you want in Albany to fix it? You want a lawyer or do you want a doctor? And Rudy's a doctor.
Well, what you really need is a bipartisan team.
I think you need probably an EMT team, among other things.
Yeah.
Tell me, how do you get money to run?
It's a pain in the neck.
Yeah, there's a lot of money here. How much does it cost you to run? The average assemblyman, I'm not talking about you personally.
I would say on average it runs $40,000 to $50,000 on average.
Mm-hmm. $2 billion to run the presidency.
Yeah, that's a whole different. When it costs you $2 billion to run a presidency, what happens is half the time you're out raising money, and the other half the time you're spending the money.
Yeah. Right.
And there's really no time left to run the government.
Uh-huh.
In terms of raising money for the assembly, we've just filed our financial reports. I have over 200 people that have contributed to my campaign personally this year. I'm very thankful. But if you don't have a lot of people who believe in you and believe in what you're trying to accomplish, you're really behind the eight ball, so to speak.
I suspect the majority members probably do better because they have a little more clout. A lot of the campaign, a lot of contributors to the campaign, as well known, have an agenda. They want you to help them out somehow or the other.
Yeah.
And so you're going to be on the short end of that stick for a while.
Well, what you find is there's two major ways that money is raised. One is by the individual candidate, and the other is raised by the party organization.
Uh-huh.
And so what you find is that the Senate Republican organization raises more than the Democrats because they're in the majority.
Yeah.
And the Assembly Democrat Campaign Committee raises more than the Republican Assembly Campaign Committee because the Republicans are in the minority. On the individual level, it really is based on the candidate. And so I'm in the minority in the Assembly, but I've raised a lot more money here in Chautauqua County because people know me so well, and I've got a lot of supporters. Mm-hmm. I don't get much support from the Assembly Campaign Committee. In fact, I don't get any.
I wouldn't be surprised, yeah.
So that's...
So at any rate, you figure the average guy's going to lay out at least 40 grand, huh? 50 grand to run for an assembly seat. How much does it pay a year?
The base salary is $79,500.
$79,000. That's a good investment then, if you win.
If you win. Not quite so good if you don't win.
Right, you lost something.
Yeah.
Well, tell me, how many people are actually running this year now in the assembly?
Well, there's 150 assemblymen who are up for re-election.
Everybody's like the House in the Congress.
Yep, everyone's up for re-election. Not all of them have opponents. I can make an election prediction for you, by the way.
Kathy Young will win.
You got it. But I would say, probably 95% of the elections are contested. In New York City, the real election, by the way, is the primary, because in most of the New York City seats, they're all Democrats.
Uh-huh.
And so once you have the primary, you've won the election.
If you're listed on the Democratic slate, you're there.
Yeah, and
You're
a
home
simple
free.
example is Vito Lopez. Remember, he was making a lot of news because he had several sexual harassment cases against him, and Shelley Silver.
Andy insisted. Okay.
Sorry, we're just having a little Halloween fun, right?
Yeah, right. Shelley, we love him anyway.
But Shelley Silver paid out $103,000 in taxpayer money on a secret payoff that didn't stay secret to his chagrin.
Who did he pay it to?
He paid it to two women who used to be staffers for Vito.
Mm-hmm.
And you might think, having paid out $103,000 in taxpayer money, having, I think there were 4 sexual harassment claims brought against him, that Vito Lopez couldn't get elected. Not true. He's on the Democrat line in New York City.
It's automatic.
It's automatic. He has no competition.
Right, you could put Adolf Hitler on that ticket, and if it's Democrat, he'd win, right? No matter what.
Yeah, Vito would win even if he died.
Which has happened in some cases.
Now here in Chautauqua County, a lot of people don't realize there's actually a slight Democrat majority. There's slightly more Democrats than Republicans.
One, isn't it? Just one? Something like that?
No, it's about 1,000. Oh, I mean,
I'm talking about the legislature, yeah.
Here there's one more Republican than Democrat.
There's one difference, yeah.
Yeah, and in terms of registration, there's about 1,000 more Democrats registered in Chautauqua County than Republicans. So our county is very, very close.
It used to be heavily Republican, I might add.
Yeah,
Back when I
it's
was a kid.
changed.
I never even met a Democrat when I was a kid until I was in college.
Those were the good days. I'm just kidding. As I mentioned, I work hard across the aisle, and it's important.
Yeah, it is. Well, I think that the Assembly and of course, you do have an advantage up there if you actually if you're dealing with the not the Assembly. What is the other one? Help me out.
Senate?
The Senate.
Yeah.
They're not senior stuff that gets you in your head. Senate. You keep thinking of the United States government. Okay, anyway, the state Senate, it has a majority. Not a big one, but a minor majority in terms of the Republicans. How often do they run, just for fun?
Same thing. Every other year, the Senate is up for election, and every other year, the Assembly. So we run together. And as you know, we've got a great senator, Senator Young, representing us here.
Yeah, Kathy Young is one of the best we've ever had. The best, in my memory, and I'm an old man,
Well, we had Pat McGee. She was great.
She was terrific. Pat was terrific.
And before that, we had Jess President, who was a real master there.
Right. He didn't like to be called Jesse.
No.
On the program. Don't call me Jesse. It reminds me of Jesse James,
But that's important for us because I work in a close partnership with Senator Young, and she has tremendous respect in the state. In fact, she got more bills through both houses than anyone else in the entire legislature.
Well, she also has brought more money up here than anybody. And God bless her, she is taking care of Chautauqua County big time.
Absolutely.
And she's prettier than any of the other ones we've had before.
She's sure prettier than I am, that's for
That's
sure.
right. Grizzled old white hair. We got a call. Let's take a call, Andy. What do you think?
Sure.
Okay. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Mr. Goodell. Could you please explain why New York State is the only state that does not allow assisted living to be instituted at its public nursing homes? This is a handicap for the public nursing homes and a great advantage to the private nursing homes. Mm-hmm. And this does not allow our public nursing home to enhance its revenue to help it stay viable.
And you are absolutely right, and it's an amazing thing. By the way, the assisted living program is, in terms of state government, is a relatively new concept. I mean, when I say relatively new, it's only 10 to 15 years old in terms of its real prevalence. Mm-hmm. And originally, as you know, you either stayed at home and were taken care of at home, or you went to a skilled nursing care. Well, then we realized that skilled nursing is very expensive, and so there's a lot of people where they don't need to go to a nursing home. They just need help with cooking and housekeeping and some maybe making sure that they take the medications on time. So we have to a program called assisted living. And Senator Young and I, by the way, got a bill through just this year to expand the assisted living program in Chautauqua County. And it was just for Chautauqua County. It was a great bill.
But it's only
well,
for
the irony, as you mentioned, is when they set up the law that authorized county nursing homes, it was on the old model of just a skilled nursing facility. And it didn't authorize county governments or municipal governments to go into assisted living. And if you look in the history, you see that the county nursing home was designed based on a medical model, of providing skilled nursing care. And the assisted living program was considered more of a housing model. And so county governments don't have authority to be involved in housing projects. We now are understanding more and more that assisted living is more than housing, even though it's less than skilled nursing
And
care.
cheaper by a mile.
Oh, much less expensive. And so I absolutely agree with you, caller. The state needs to amend its laws, expand the authority of municipal governments to provide a lesser level of care than skilled nursing, and recognize that when you're in assisted living, it's not just housing with food and some supportive services. It's really part of a continuum of care.
And it's not such a drain on the taxpayer, and it also enhances the revenues of any institution that has it. And in this time of need, you're seeing many nursing homes in jeopardy, public nursing homes, to the big corporations that are getting all this money that was used to bail out the banks. It's all floating around now, and it's going to buy up the public assets, not just the nursing homes, but other aspects of what once was the commons that we all have a right to.
Well, what's holding up the train here, Andy? Why don't they quickly say any hospital can put in a assisted living unit?
Well, it's because of the difference in philosophy between housing and health care. And the bill that I mentioned that Senator Young and I both got through, I was a sponsor in the Assembly and she sponsored in the Senate. What that bill did is allowed Medicaid to pay for assisted living. And it was on a trial basis here. Bill Parman actually got it in through initially on a trial basis. Senator Young and I got that program now on a permanent basis, and we expanded it. But this is the first time, and we're the only county in the state where you can use Medicaid dollars, which are based on a medical model, to pay for assisted living. So we're making movement there, but the state still hasn't embraced the concept of recognizing that the assisted living program is part of a continuum of care, and you need to move some of the Medicaid dollars into assisted living, because assisted living is a fraction of the cost.
And it would save the nursing
Oh,
home.
huge savings.
We got to talk about that nursing home.
One more question about the nursing home. We have we're hearing that it takes a supermajority to decide for the legislators to make the decision to sell that nursing home. Now the legislators who want to sell it are threatening to change the law so that it will only take a simple majority. Do you think they can get away with that? That seems like a skit for Stephen Colbert or Jon Stewart. If the laws don't work for you, change them.
Well, as you know, you're asking a question of a lawyer. So the first thing is, can they change the law? And if the law is a straight law and it's not part of the county charter...
I think it's a charter. I think it's a charter issue, but they have some sort of little loophole that they're pulling out of the woodwork.
Well, most laws can be changed by majority vote. And so I don't have a copy of the county charter in front of me, but most laws can be changed by majority vote. And of course, that's the general rule that we want to have, because normally we want majority votes to rule. Yeah. So I would suspect, without having the law in front of me, that it can be changed by a majority vote. There's another issue, though, that I think you need to be sensitive to, and that is, under the current law, it takes a 2/3 vote to sell the county home, but you need a majority vote to finance the county home. And so there's also a danger that you might not have the 2/3 vote to sell the county home and not have the majority vote needed to fund it.
But all that issue has deflated. The last budget gave the taxpayers back money last Wednesday night, and it also reduced the allocation to the nursing home by $250,000, while acknowledging that the nursing home has been saying for over a year that it can make it on its own. Administratively, it's been clear that if it gets the ability to enhance revenue and to cut costs, and the union has conceded $1.6 million a year in benefits and raises, the home doesn't need as much money. So the whole argument that this home is in financial difficulties gone. Plus, the taxpayers are getting a reduction in their property taxes. So the whole question of needing to sell the nursing home is much reduced.
Sounds like a phony issue. Huh?
So why would they even consider selling to one buyer? There's only one buyer. How could there be an RFP that only considers one buyer who is unqualified, who comes from Chicago and who is really unqualified to be part of our community?
Well, as you know, when I was county executive 20 years ago, the nursing home operated profitably.
Right.
And it took a lot of work to make that happen, and we had great management and great staff, and it was a lot of work. I have not been involved in running the county nursing home, as you know, for the last 15 years. And you've pointed out that the business model has changed with assisted living now becoming much more prevalent. And so I have to apologize. I'm not on top of the county home internal financial issues like I used to be when I was county executive, because it's a county issue.
It's hard to compare it to a business. It's hard to compare it to a business. It's a very much needed service to the needy.
Well, of course it's a needed service. And I'm just pointing out that if the county home can make it on its own without a county subsidy, I would be very surprised if it's sold.
Yep.
But I think the people that are supporting the sale of the county home believe that it cannot survive without a significant subsidy. But again, that's an issue that...
New caller, hold on, we'll be right with you.
And I think that's an issue that you need to address with the legislators who are wrestling with this issue.
Well, even the pro-sale people acknowledged during the budget hearings that if they respected what the Center for Governmental Research pointed out could be done, and if they accepted the union's concessions, and if they enhanced some of the physical therapy possibilities, that home would be perfectly viable on its own. No burden to the taxpayer.
Enough said. Thank you very much, caller.
Okay.
We have a couple more calls, and we'll keep an eye on the nursing home. I feel that it's very important as a service myself to keep it. It's just like having a good road crew. You have some place for indigent seniors to go in the county, and I think our caller has made a pretty good case for the fact it's not really costing us very much money. Certain people are very interested in selling it, as a county executive, among others, they tell me. But we'll have to see what comes about. And if they change the law so they can get around the supermajority, I personally will vote against anybody who votes to change the law. And I hope everybody in the county will do that, because that's basically criminal inaction as far as I'm concerned. Caller, you're on. Caller went away.
Scared it away?
Hello?
Hello, there you are.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Get your rain gear out, because we're in for it for a good week of it.
That's what it sounds like.
They certainly say it's diminishing a little bit in its impact, though. So
hopefully.
Don't run away screaming in fear. It's not going to happen.
Well, just so it doesn't affect the vote getting out.
Okay.
I have a question for your guest. Now that you've been in office for a couple of years, has anything happened that has changed the way you think about the way government's being run, or about have you had a change in attitude about anything that you might have thought differently about before you actually started doing this job?
Mm-hmm. Well, what surprised me a little bit was the attitude of some of my New York City colleagues as it relates to businesses. Mm-hmm. I found that a number of the New York City legislators are really openly hostile toward business, and I was surprised by that. It's not everyone in the legislature, but there's a group of people from New York City that really view business almost as an enemy. And of course, as you know, up here in Chautauqua County, we rely on small businesses and family-owned farms and local companies like Carriage House and NRG and others to provide a strong employment base. So what I've been working on is, on a regular basis in Albany, is trying to convince some of my New York City colleagues that their view of the world out of New York City is very different than our view of the world, and our view is not wrong, that there's a lot of advantages. And so I've been working very hard to encourage them to support legislation that makes New York more business friendly.
I think we should have a new state.
Well,
A New York City state.
New York City's perspective is on many issues is very, very different than ours.
Exactly, because most of the state is much more rural than New York City itself, although we do have some cities like Buffalo and Syracuse and so forth. But compared to New York City, they're barely anything. But I think they ought to take all the boroughs of New York City and Long Island, kind of lump them into a new state.
Yeah, and I saw that. I'll give you another simple example. I've introduced a number of welfare reform initiatives, designed, by the way, to make it easier for people to leave welfare and become successful on their own. Some of those, I also, by the way, opposed the 10% increase in welfare cash benefits that was approved this year.
Incidentally, the welfare benefit for housing in New York City is $200.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they could never
Can you
get a
believe
house
that?
for-
You couldn't buy a closet for that in New York.
No.
That is true. That is absolutely
So
true.
actually, the welfare people in New York aren't making that much money.
Yeah, and the problem is, though, when the benefit is too low in New York City and more than adequate here, people leave New York City
I wonder where all those people are coming from.
and they come here.
Yeah, I thought they were escaping subpoenas.
Well, you know what?
or something.
I actually know a person that had to be on welfare through
Uh-huh.
bad circumstances, and I would not have considered what they received in their welfare benefits more than adequate.
That's always inadequate. There's no question about it.
But so what I've been trying to do is say, look, maybe you guys in New York City need a higher welfare benefit. Our cash benefit here in Chautauqua County, by the way, is 46% higher than Pennsylvania and 42% higher than Ohio, according to the Urban Institute's latest study. And so we need to bring our benefit level more in line with our neighboring states. If they need more, that's fine. But trying to convince my New York City colleagues that what's good for New York City is not necessarily what's good for us here in Chautauqua County. And I will share with you that there are a lot of moderate Democrats outside of New York City that I've co-sponsored legislation with, and we're continuing to build on those relationships so that we can have a program that works in New York City that's different than what works in Chautauqua County. And that's really what we're trying to do.
Well, that would probably be a wise idea. I was very interested in your latest comment that you and some of your...
Colin, we're out of time.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for calling
have
in.
a wonderful time, and it was, glad to have...
We're out of here.
Goodbye.
Thanks a lot. Happy Halloween, everybody. I wanted to say there's a Christmas craft show. Last call just came in at the Mayville United Methodist Church on November the 2nd. That's Friday. On November the 2nd, 9 to 3. All right, enough said. Thank you for showing up, Andy. I want to give you at least 20 seconds to close off. Uninterrupted time.
Well,
Time is up.
Reed, it's great to be on your show always. And we've got a lot of great things going on in our county for senior citizens. As you know, Marianne Spanos is
What a
working
job.
hard.
Dr. Spanos, what a job.
And that's great. And we have the RSVP program, which is doing great, getting retired volunteers in our community. And a lot of great senior programs, and I hope everyone out there is taking advantage
Andy
of
Goodell. Thank you very much, Andy. Running against Rudy Mueller for the position of our assemblyman up here, and I'm sure either one will do a great job. I know you're doing a good one, and we'll see what happens. I want to thank Chuck Kelsey, Devin Taylor, Chris Burt, Randy Burt, Chris Ramaker, Jeff Zook, Don Zenz, and John Hamels for participation, for the wonderful skills they provide and their training that they've taken to help make sure this program airs every single day in Chautauqua County, twice a day, 2 and 8 o'clock. And he'll be on and smiling at us all. I want to say, last but least, be careful on Halloween. Have a good Halloween. Give your kids out some healthy foods. Give them broccoli and asparagus, things like that.
And they'll love that, I'm sure.
They'll love that. You get a lot of callers. Meantime, is all that is proud. May it all be proud and true and noble for you this week. I'm Reed Powers.